Hi, my name's Sam, and I would like to do a review of two bottles of single malt scotch. Um, I got these bottles recently. This is the Deanston 12 year, and then the Deanston Virgin Oak. I thought it'd be interesting to sort of compare them, look at the similarities and the differences. I've been letting these sit for about 10 minutes. I like to let even young whiskeys like this, I like them when they've been sitting for a little bit longer. Mileage may vary. Before I try them out, I'll note that the 12 year here in Minneapolis, the 12 year goes for about 50. I think I bought it for about $56. The Virgin Oak I got as a gift, so I don't know exactly how much it costs, but I've seen it online for a little bit less. I think I saw it for about $46. Both of these whiskeys are 46.3%, so they're a bit higher in ABV than you might see for some 12 years, or at least some of the ones that I've seen. Also, they both say that they are not chill filtered. They have this sort of disclaimer on there, which is always nice to see. I've tried, obviously you can see I've tried the 12 year a bit more than the Virgin Oak. I sort of bought this one on a whim. And I guess, sort of spoiler alert, I think it's a really nice whiskey, and for the price point, $50, it's very good. Not exceptional, but it's very good. I found that both of them they're not terribly complex. They're very sweet. There's not a whole lot other than the sweetness in there, but it's a very nice, rich, deep sweetness. So you can definitely tell when you nose them, especially the 12 year. It's very, very sort of thick, like brown sugar, maple sort of nose. Again, there's not a whole lot going on, not a whole lot of complexity, but it's certainly very full, very rich. I find that the smell isn't, it doesn't persist. You kind of, and maybe it's because of these glasses. I don't have Glencairn glasses. I do like these glasses a lot, but they don't tend to concentrate the nose too much. But you smell them, it's got a very nice, rich brown sugar maple syrup kind of nose. And it does tend to open up. I'll put some water in a second, but I just thought I'd nose them real quick. This is the Virgin Oak, and I have these little papers here so that I can tell them apart, because as you can tell, they're both fairly standard color. There's a nice sort of golden color there. I can't really tell a difference. No, I don't have any innate sense as to whether these have been colored or not, and I don't mind one way or the other. They don't seem to have that sort of orangey hue that you get from, or that I've been told you get from the caramel coloring. So the Virgin Oak is a bit more, it's got a little bit more complexity to it. It's not just that brown sugar. There's a sort of like, it reminds me a bit of mezcal. There's a bit more complexity there, which is nice. It's also not as strong as the 12 year. It's a bit more subdued, at least before water's been put into it. And I would just say they're different. There's not, I wouldn't say I prefer one over the other, like right off the bat. I think they're both very nice. They're just a little different. So in terms of the palate, 12 years is very soft and smooth. Again, not terribly complex. It's got a bit of a sort of a buttery, like a custard. It reminds me of like custard or cake in a way. Not in that it tastes like custard or cake, but it's sort of got this richness, this fullness. It's a little astringent, just a bit, not terrible. And the virgin oak, you can tell the alcohol in there. It's a little drying in your mouth. Again, it's got that sweetness, but there's a bit more sour, putting an edge on it, which is nice. So I'm going to put about a spoonful of water in. I found that I've been careful with putting water in because it is so young and I don't want to drown it. But it does tend to take water pretty nicely. On the other hand, it doesn't open up so much. I found that when I put water in, it's not like there's this whole plethora of new aromas or flavors coming out. It's more just to sort of dilute it, tame it a little bit, bring the alcohol down. So yeah, it's still that same brown sugar sweetness. I'm not really noticing it right now, but I found that the virgin oak definitely has and not surprisingly, it has a sort of a woody character to it, sort of like being in a furniture store and like that smell of fresh wood or like a freshly cut board at the hardware store. Again, similar notes, very pleasant, not overwhelming, not too much to search for. It's got a bit of that sour note is sort of developing a little bit. And it's kind of like reminds me of passion fruit or like a sort of like a tropical citrus sort of thing, and that's really nice. I've got some more tasting notes that I've taken before. I got this handy little notebook. So for the Deanston, I've got the brown sugar and the maple syrup. This one also has a bit of those sort of papaya, passion fruit kind of flavors. And then the flavors are very narrow, so it's not a complex range of flavors, but it tends to be deep. So it's very nice. This one, the virgin oak, I've got more esters, got more fruit esters, kind of the banana-y sort of flavor. It's light, but it's very nice. Later on, after I've let this sit for maybe 20 minutes or half an hour, I've started to notice sort of a baking cinnamon sort of flavor, like making like a crisp with some cinnamon on it. And then buttery flan sort of flavor. And that's definitely like, it tastes sort of like, or like dulce de leche, almost a sort of sweet. I mean, it doesn't sound very good, but like a cheesy sort of flavor. So a nice sort of almost dairy, like butteriness, which is surely coming from the virgin wood. I haven't done a whole lot of research into virgin oak, but just talking with someone who sort of knows about this, he was telling me that Scotch tends to be aged in used barrels, so maybe used bourbon barrels, used sherry barrels. So that first use of the barrel sort of takes out a bit of the flavor from the wood. Unlike bourbon, which is aged in new oak barrels and gets a very full, thick, rich flavor and palate, so forth. The virgin oak does kind of taste, it's like, I would say it's closer to a bourbon than it is to some scotches, in that it's got this richness and this very thick flavor to it, because it's aged apparently in a similar process to bourbon. So yeah, now it's starting to get that kind of buttery flavor. And it's cooling down a bit. The alcohol's gone away a bit. And it's a bit more approachable. It is nice that it's not quite as sweet. It feels a bit more austere or mature, even though it doesn't have an age statement. that I've been able to see. So it's a bit more maybe grown up. But then the 12 year is very nice. If you like sweet whiskeys, if you like sweet scotches, this is a great one to go to. It's great just for drinking. If you don't want to necessarily sit and dissect flavors, which is very enjoyable, of course, but sometimes you want to just sit down and drink scotch. I would say, so personally I've been sort of drinking scotch and paying attention to it for only about a year now. So I still, I guess, consider myself a beginner, but I could see this being the 12 year being a great bottle to get someone you might want to get into scotch, or that you think might enjoy scotch but wouldn't be interested in something that's terribly complex and unusual. It's very tasty. It's very approachable. Because it's unchill filtered, it's got that rich, full, lingering flavor profile. I haven't mentioned it yet, but again, as might be obvious, there's no peat or smoke detectable in these at all. Even compared to something like Dewar's is smokier than this. So yeah, two very nice whiskeys. Deanston 12 year, Deanston Virgin Oak. A lot of similarities, but enough differences that it is interesting trying them side by side. Definitely would recommend them. Not going to give like a ranking or a rating or anything. I don't feel that's terribly productive, but very nice whiskeys. Definitely worth trying out. Thanks.